was one of those nights in Bangor that felt like the world had slipped a gear. The kind where the fog rolls in off the Penobscot River like a living thing, thick and clammy, wrapping around the streetlights until they look like glowing eyes in the murk. Eddie Harlan had been driving for Uber for about 3 years now, ever since the mill shut down and left him with a mortgage, a wife who'd walked out 2 months later, and a pickup truck that guzzled gas like a drunk at an open bar. He wasn't complaining much. The gigs paid the bills mostly, and on slow nights like this, he could listen to his audiobooks, the ones about ancient curses and things that go bump in the night. Stephen King was his favorite. The guy wrote about Maine like he knew every pothole and pine tree personally. Eddie was 42, with a gut that spoke of too many drive-through burgers and a back that ached from 12-hour shifts. His truck was a '09 Ford F-150, black as pitch, with a dent in the passenger door from the time he'd sideswiped a deer on Route 2. The app pinged around 11:45 p.m., just as he was thinking about calling it quits. Pickup at the old bus depot on Union Street. Drop-off way out in the sticks, some dirt road off Route 9 toward the unincorporated townships. The name on the app was simple: Passenger. No profile pic, no rating. That happened sometimes. New users or folks who didn't bother with the bells and whistles. He pulled up to the depot. The place deserted except for a couple of flickering fluorescents, buzzing like angry hornets. The fog was so dense he could barely see the bench where the passenger was supposed to be waiting. Then, out of the swirl, a figure emerged. Tall, lanky, wearing a long coat that looked like it belonged in a black and white movie, the kind with fedoras and trench coats. The man, and Eddie assumed it was a man, had his collar turned up, hat pulled low, face in shadow. He slid into the back seat without a word, just a nod that Eddie caught in the rearview mirror. "Evening," Eddie said, forcing a smile. You had to be friendly. Tips depended on it. Heading out to, 147 Blackwood Lane? That's a ways out. You sure about the address? GPS says it's basically a logging road. The passenger didn't answer right away. He settled back, crossing his legs, and Eddie caught a whiff of something. Old leaves, maybe, or wet earth after a rain. Not unpleasant, but odd for this time of year, late fall when everything was crisp and dying. "Yes," the man said finally, his voice low and smooth, like velvet dragged over gravel. "That's the place." Eddie shrugged and hit the road. The app said the ride would take about 40 minutes, give or take, depending on traffic, which there wasn't any at this hour. He flicked on the radio for some noise, classic rock station playing Hotel California. The passenger didn't seem to mind. Eddie glanced in the mirror again. The guy's face was still hidden, but his hands, they were pale, long-fingered, resting on his knees like they were carved from marble. "So what brings you out this way?" Eddie asked, trying to fill the silence. King always said silence was where the monsters hid. The passenger tilted his head slightly. "Business. Unfinished." Eddie chuckled nervously. "Aren't we all? Me. I'm just trying to make ends meet. You from around here?" A pause. "I've been here before. Long ago." The fog thickened as they left the city limits, the headlights cutting twin beams through the soup. Trees loomed on either side of the highway, black sentinels in the night. Eddie's mind wandered to those King stories. The mist, maybe, where the fog hid worse things than deer. He shook it off. Stupid imagination. About 10 minutes in, the passenger spoke again. "Tell me, Edward, May I call you Edward? Eddie blinked. The app showed his name as Eddie H., but folks sometimes guessed. Sure, Eddie works too. How'd you know? I have a way with names. The man's voice had a lilt now, almost amused. Do you believe in second chances, Edward? Eddie shifted in his seat. The question hung there like cigarette smoke. I guess. Everyone deserves one, right? My ex-wife didn't think so. But hey, the passenger leaned forward slightly, and for the first time, Eddie saw his eyes in the mirror, pale blue, almost glowing in the dashboard light. What if I told you some people get more than that, more than they deserve? Eddie forced a laugh. Sounds like a good deal. Sign me up. They drove on, the radio fading to static as they hit the dead zones out past Brewer. Eddie tried switching stations, but nothing came through clear. Just white noise, whispering like distant voices. Tell me about your family, Edward, the passenger said suddenly. Eddie's grip tightened on the wheel. Not much to tell. Divorced, no kids. Parents passed years ago. Why? I like stories. Yours seems familiar. The road narrowed, turning off onto Route 9. The blacktop crumbling under the tires. Eddie's truck rattled over potholes, and he cursed under his breath. The GPS beeped. 25 minutes to destination. But something felt off. The fog wasn't lifting. If anything, it was getting worse, pressing against the windows like it wanted in. You ever pick up weird fares? The passenger asked. Eddie glanced back. The man's hat was off now, revealing thin white hair, slicked back, and a face that was all angles, sharp cheekbones, a nose like a blade. He looked old, but not frail. Ageless, somehow. All the time, Eddie replied. Drunks, chatty folks, once a guy who thought he was Elvis. Harmless stuff. And the not-so-harmless? Eddie swallowed. Nah, nothing like that. Bangor's pretty tame. The passenger smiled, teeth gleaming. Is it? I remember a time when it wasn't. Back in 28, there was a fire at the lumber mill. Burned half the workers alive. They say their screams echo on windy nights. Eddie knew the story. Every local did. The Great Fire of 1928, though it wasn't at the mill, it was downtown. But close enough. Yeah, history's full of that crap. Ghosts and all. Not ghosts, the passenger murmured. Echoes. Sometimes they come back. A chill ran down Eddie's spine. The heater was on full blast, but the cab felt cold now, like someone had left the door open. He checked the app. Passenger still nameless, rating NA. Weird. They hit a stretch of road where the trees crowded in, branches scraping the roof like fingers. The passenger started humming, a tune Eddie couldn't place, old, folksy, like something from a forgotten era. You mind if I smoke? Eddie asked, needing something to steady his nerves. The passenger waved a hand. By all means, life's short. Eddie lit up a Marlboro, inhaling deep. The smoke curled in the air, but instead of dissipating, it seemed to form shapes, faces maybe. He blinked, and it was gone. Imagination again. Tell me, Edward, the man said. Have you ever lost someone close? Eddie's cigarette nearly fell from his lips. Yeah. My brother, Tommy, died in a car wreck when we were kids. Drunk driver hit us head on. Why? The passenger's eyes met his in the mirror, unblinking. Tragic. But what if Tommy didn't die? What if he lingered? Eddie slammed on the brakes, the truck skidding to a halt. How the hell do you know about Tommy? Who are you? The fog swirled around them, the headlights illuminating nothing but white void. The engine ticked in the silence. I told you, the man said softly. I've been here before. Eddie twisted in his seat, heart pounding. The passenger's face seemed different now, younger, familiar. The sharp features softened, the eyes darker, like looking in a funhouse mirror. Tommy? Eddie whispered, voice cracking. The man smiled wider, but it wasn't Tommy's smile. It was something else's, wearing Tommy like a mask. Not quite, but close. You see, Edward, some of us don't stay dead. We hitch rides, borrow faces. Unfinished business, remember? Eddie's mind reeled. This couldn't be real. Hallucination, maybe. Exhaustion. Bad burger from lunch. But the cold was real, seeping into his bones, and the passenger's hand reached out, fingers elongating like shadows. Drive, the thing said, voice echoing now. Multiple tones, layered like a chorus of the damned. Eddie floored the gas, the truck lurching forward. The GPS glitched, the map spinning wildly. Destination unknown. The road twisted unnaturally, trees bending as if alive. You picked up the wrong fare, Edward. The passenger. No, the thing laughed. But don't worry, we'll have plenty of time to catch up. The fog closed in completely, swallowing the world. Eddie's screams mixed with the static on the radio, but no one heard. In Bangor, on nights like this, no one ever does. That was the start, but Eddie didn't know it yet. As the truck barreled into the void, memories flooded him. Not his, but Tommy's. The crash, the pain, the darkness that followed, and something else, something hungry that latched on in the afterlife, a parasite of souls, jumping from body to body, ride to ride. He tried to swerve, to crash into a tree, anything to end it, but the wheel wouldn't turn. The thing controlled it now, tendrils of shadow wrapping around the steering column. Please, Eddie begged. Let me go. The thing leaned close, breath like grave dirt. But brother, we're just getting started. Hours passed, or minutes. Time bent in the fog. The truck emerged onto Blackwood Lane, a rutted path leading to an abandoned farmhouse, windows like empty eyes. The app dinged, ride complete. But Eddie knew it wasn't. The door locks clicked open, but his body wouldn't move. Paralyzed, he watched as the thing exited, then circled to the driver's side. Your turn to ride shotgun, it whispered, pulling him out like a rag doll. Eddie Harlan vanished that night, another missing person in Maine's long list. Folks say on foggy evenings, you can see his truck cruising Route 9, headlights piercing the mist, a shadowy figure at the wheel, waiting for the next fare. But if your app pings late at night and the passenger has no name, cancel the ride, or you might not live to tell the tale. Wait, that can't be the end, Eddie thought, as the thing dragged him toward the farmhouse. His legs trailed uselessly in the dirt, leaves crunching underfoot like brittle bones. The air smelled of decay, rot from the woods where things died and weren't found for seasons. The farmhouse was a relic, boards warped, roof sagging like an old man's shoulders. Vines choked the porch, and through the broken windows, Eddie glimpsed furniture shrouded in dust sheets, ghosts of a life long gone. "Why me?" he managed to croak, throat tight. The thing paused, tilting its head. Tommy's head, but twisted. "Because you called me back, Edward. That night, after the crash, you prayed for Tommy to live. Prayers like that, they open doors." Eddie remembered. The hospital room, machines beeping, Tommy's small hand cold in his. He'd been 12, Tommy 10. "God, please," he'd whispered. "Bring him back." But God hadn't answered. Something else had. Inside, the house was colder than outside, frost riming the walls despite the season. The thing dumped Eddie in a chair, ropes appearing from nowhere to bind him, shadowy cords that burned like ice. "Now," it said, face shifting again, melting like wax. Tommy's features dissolved into an older man's, then a woman's, cycling through faces like a slideshow of the dead. "We wait." "For what?" "For the next one. You see, I collect stories, lives. Each ride adds to the tapestry." Eddie struggled, but the bonds held. Hours ticked by, marked by a grandfather clock that chimed erratically. 13, then 7, then silence. The thing paced, humming that tune again, and Eddie recognized it now. An old lullaby their mother sang, twisted into something discordant. Dawn should have come, but the fog persisted. Eternal night. Eddie's phone buzzed in his pocket. Another ping? But he couldn't reach it. "Tell me a story, Edward," the thing demanded, settling across from him. Its eyes were voids now, sucking in light. Eddie spat. "Go to hell." It laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Been there. Prefer the road." Then it began its own tale. Of the first host, a logger in 1928, burned, but not killed, his agony drawing it from the ether. Then a hitchhiker in the 50s, a runaway in the 80s. Each time, a wrong turn, a picked-up stranger, a soul consumed. "You're number 47, it said proudly. A milestone. Eddie's mind raced. King Books always had a way out. Fire, faith, something. He eyed the room. A kerosene lamp on the mantel, matches nearby. If he could just... But the thing sensed it. Shadows coiling tighter. "No escapes, brother." Yet as it spoke, Eddie felt a spark. Anger. Or maybe Tommy's echo. Real this time. "You're not him," he growled. "Tommy's gone. You're just a leech." The thing faltered, face flickering back to Tommy's. "Am I?" Eddie lunged, bond snapping, not with strength, but will. He grabbed the lamp, smashed it on the floor. Flames erupted, hungry for the dry wood. The thing shrieked, form dissolving into smoke. "You can't burn me out." But the fire spread, licking up walls, and Eddie bolted for the door, lungs burning. The truck waited outside, keys in ignition. He gunned it, fog parting like a curtain. Miles later, sun breaking through, Eddie pulled over, shaking. Was it over? The app showed the ride canceled, passenger gone. But in the rear view, a shadow lingered, eyes gleaming. He drove on, knowing some fares never end. Eddie made it back to Bangor by morning, the city stirring like nothing happened. He parked the truck, hands trembling on a coffee cup from Duncan's. The fog had lifted, leaving a crisp autumn day, leaves swirling in the breeze. He reported nothing. Who'd believe? Cops would think drugs or breakdown. Instead, he quit Uber that day, sold the truck, took a job at the hardware store. Normal life, or close. But nights were different. Dreams of the road, the thing whispering from the back seat, and sometimes, glancing in mirrors, he'd see a flicker. Not his reflection, but Tommy's. Smiling sadly. Weeks passed. Eddie tried therapy, booze, church. Nothing stuck. Then, one evening, his phone pinged. An old notification? No, a new app, one he hadn't downloaded. Soul Ride. Pickup request, anonymous. He deleted it, smashed the phone. But the next day, a new one arrived in the mail, screen glowing with the same app. The thing wasn't done. Unfinished business. Eddie hit the road again, not as driver, but hunter. He read up on lore, King's books, old tomes from the library, salt, iron, fire. Maybe he could trap it, send it back. But deep down, he knew. Once you pick up the wrong person, the ride never ends. Years later, folks in Bangor whisper about a ghost truck on Route 9, driven by a man with haunted eyes, searching for a passenger he can never drop off. And if your ride app glitches late at night, cancel or join the tale.